you're driven by personal ambitions, by selfish, self-centered, considered issues, then of course you'll find that conflict. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't see the conflict pursuing music and whatever. Now, above all, I will advise you. This is the age of the internet. This is the age of globalization. You must be diversified. Move into different directions. But the same office is still scriptural. Some are called apostles. Some are called prophets. Some are called evangelists. Some are called, don't bury any talent. To me, that is what Jesus Christ taught me. You're given 1 talent, 2 talents, 4 talents, 5 talents, invest 5. Why? Because you don't know which will give you a return back at the end of the day. I think I will need to drop there so far. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So how would you advise young people to be able to discern between the path of purpose and the path of trends?
That's a good question because we get carried away by trends. Everybody knows the fashion of the day, the wind, the tide, and of course this is very common. But sometimes I really wonder what is changing, frankly speaking, because we keep recycling, trends. When I was a little boy, I remember at one point that our fathers were wearing this kind of thing that I'm wearing, this kind of sleek trousers. Is that okay? And of course, those trousers were standing up above the shoes. And our fathers were doing this kind of hair. Do you see what I'm putting on? I want you to see it clear. Yeah. If I get those old pictures, you see this, yes, this is a modification of the punk hairstyle. It has ever been there. It was a fashion trend, some kind of trend, many years back. But today we have seen young people recycle it again. So trends can change with time. And trends are driven by the winds. That is, but purpose is more permanent. Yeah, and of course it's more stable. It has something to do with God himself. And, let me say this clearly. If you're going to survive life, you must be rooted in what is a purpose. Choose a purpose in life. Choose a calling in life. Don't be carried away by the trends. The trends may fluctuate. But the good thing about it also, and I say that from the beginning, learn to be flexible, learn to be adaptable, learn to be accommodative. After all, the whole essence of life is just 3 things I've said. Flexibility, adaptability, and being accommodative. You must learn these 3 basics because what is constant in life is change. Nothing is permanent in terms of the trends. But what is permanent is the focus you define for yourself. If you want to get down to Lagos and you change direction to Kano, you know where you're going to end up to. But if you get focused on getting to Lagos, you'll get there. So your life is the purpose. The trend is the winds around you. But the defining point is you. And you must make that decision that, look, today, your life is going to get purpose so that you're not driven away by every trend that comes around you. You're only going to ask yourself this fundamental question. What is the trend that is relevant to my calling in defining who I am? That is the fundamental question. And if you answer that question, you'll discover there is not everything happening around you that is important and relevant to you. You will pick some, you will drop some, you can even modify some and move on and move along and, of course, achieve whatever that you want to achieve in the course of life.
Thank you, sir. Sir, one of the challenges that we experience in this age, both young and old, of course, is the challenge of oversaturation of information. There's just so much going on. There's so much noise. There's so much distraction. So how would you say that we can tell that we are in alignment, or if we are in alignment?
I think that is a very good question in the sense that the first thing that we need in the 21st century society is that identify yourself. If you don't identify yourself, you might find yourself being carried away by everything that comes through the internet. In terms of volume, in terms of velocity, in terms of content, this terrain. There's so much that is coming on the internet. If you were online in the morning. By the time you get by the afternoon or by the evening, so much has changed. And how do you manage this quantum information that comes and is targeted at you? How do you get to select what to read, what not to read, what to digest, what not to digest, what to use and what not to use, even what to save and what not to save? It all has to do with you, the individual, purpose and identity. If you cannot identify yourself in this society we're living in, this age we're living in, you can be lost in this wave of information that's even bigger than the ocean that we see. So the first thing is that, who are you? Define yourself. And if you agree, I say if you agree, that you're a child of God and you've been bought with a price, then there are certain information that you don't need. As a person, I select my site carefully and I pick my likes very carefully too. Because one button of like can bring in a lot of things, on your smartphone. And it's because you subscribe with a like. So you have the choice based on who you are. What you are is what you're looking for. If you're a child of God, then you'll be looking for what is godly, what is inspiring, but above all, what leads to development. Let me leave this rule in terms of selection again. If there's any piece of information that comes to you that leaves you troubled, it's not meant for you. One way of establishing God's will, peace of mind, the first thing. And the second thing is that it must drive you towards good change. Thirdly, it must drive you towards good success. And the fourth one is that it must impact on people. You will see the fruit. When you interact with people, they said, there's that benefit. There's those, you can see the evidence of the transformation of people's life. But for any information that gets to you, whatever information that gets to you that leaves you troubled, that takes away the peace of God, that begins to distract you or leads you into addiction or overindulgence. This is very common for young people. That at the end of the day, you're no longer yourself and you're drifting and there's no more impact that you can see. Then certainly that information is not of God. And for me as a person, I select the music that I listen to. I select the films that I watch. I select the literature that I read. I select the people that I have companionship with. If my interaction with you cannot lead me to something that is positive, dynamic, hearing, and impactful, it's better to break away from that relationship. On the internet, whatever that is coming that is not helping build you up. And of course, more importantly, my dear sister, if all of a sudden you're afraid of sharing it, you don't want your wife to see it, for those of us that are married, or you don't want your friend to see it or your pastor to see it, then there's something wrong with it. I have my smartphone. My wife goes through my phone every time. I leave it for her, and of course, she's at liberty to go through it and check everything she wants. The same thing with my pastor, and I subscribe myself to my pastor and to my mentors, and I'm free, I'm willing that they should check whatever that I'm doing. If there's anything that you're involved in that creates a sense of fear and isolation, that begins to make you to run away from your pastor, no matter how seemingly good that thing might be, I can assure you it's not of God and better cut off from that kind of information.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Very insightful. I want to ask, sir, from the academic perspective, as someone who has taught and mentored students over time, what would you say is one of the most recurring challenges that you see students struggle with in their academics, and how can they overcome it?
I like that. And let me say this frankly, sir, this should be like some kind of practical session. I don't know how many of you are reading the courses you're reading, or you read the courses that you read because you want money.
Wow.
That is the first trouble.
Yeah.
One of my bosom friend, very bosom friend, his father was an established multimillionaire at the Benue State University, and the father said, look, come over, stay with Prof, and be under him. I was then a student, and I still recall, because he said, look, you must read medicine. And the boy couldn't cope with mess. And I remember for how many years I was always going around trying to see how to fix things for him, the carryovers, to fix them, to make sure that he wasn't having too many carryovers and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, he graduated with a pass degree. But I remember what he told me. He said, "Look, Prof, my desire, my happiness is I have a degree, but my purpose is to preach the gospel." As we speak, he is a global, gospel preacher, with international connections. The first problem, and I wish I would elaborate more on this, many of us never sat your life down to ask yourself, what is it that you came to this world to accomplish? I mean, on a serious note. It's not money. Now, let me share very quickly. Money flows into purpose. Money flows into ideas. Money flows into what is going to benefit humanity. It's not the courses that you read. I respect the fact that, yes, certain courses can give you a job, what you call the white-collar job. Of course, there are very few blue-collar jobs in Nigeria anyway. But, of course, you should be driven more by purpose. I read history deliberately. It was out of choice. It's not that anybody imposed it upon me. But today, I keep thanking God for whatever and whatever that I am, and of course, wherever that I am today in life, because I said it again, synergize between history and purpose, and of course, what you're going to do for humanity generally. So that is the first thing. At the level of career guidance, career choice, get it right. The second thing is study habits and ethics. And the number one thing, now this is what I've discovered in the university, teaching in the university. I've been there in the last 20 years, my ladies and gentlemen. You're returning for a semester, the first thing you must get is the course content. Request the course content. The second thing you must know who is the lecturer for each course. The third thing you must get is the past questions for the last. Because, you're going to use those questions to exercise writing it, so that you don't need to be dragging my sister when you're writing an exams. I had that kind of horrible experience when I was an undergraduate student. My two sisters in the fellowship sat side by side. They had planned it, I didn't know. Then all of a sudden it became a kidnap in the middle of an examination, and it wasn't. Get the past question papers. Then the third thing is that registration done. And another thing also is that take your CA seriously. Your continuous assessment is usually either 30 or 40, depends. 14, you're looking for 10, you're out of that course. 30, you're looking for, you're out of that course. And there is no way that you, in an exam situation, that you perform less than, over 70, over 60, that you can't grab 30. And if you know the course content, and above all, how many of you believe that the Holy Spirit can give you expo? Yes, it happened to me. Be very prayerful. See, if there's anything I will say here this morning, my dear brothers and sisters in Christ, it pays to serve God. If you do, God also will do your own. I've seen it. It never fails. So God will bring the expo. I will see the questions, even ahead of time, and I will practice them with colleagues. Have a study group. How many of you have a study group? Sit down, take the questions, and try to attempt them. Yes, it's something that helps you that you enter an examination hall, you're recalling the discussion within the study group, and of course, it makes you excellent. And of course, every other thing connects. If you have purpose with God, God will make things work for you. It doesn't matter what you have read. I don't have time to tell you what people have read in the university and where they are now. But I can tell you as a lecturer, someone who has been there before, that most at the end of the day are the ones that read courses that people thought that no, forget about this course. But if you have divine purpose, read whatever that God says, read it, and you become what God says you're going to become.
Thank you, sir. What is your advice to young Nigerians about the current jackpot syndrome?
They say that if you don't know what is in your Sokoto, am I right?
Yeah.
Daddy was in Sokoto, then you not lapse. Now, if they want to drag you there as a slave, I'm behind you. And my area of specialty is this area, migrations.
Wow.
That is what I did my inaugural lecture to you. And I've lectured on transatlantic slave trade and the New World Society for over 10 years. I've authored a book in that direction. Of course, once it is published online, I hope to connect with Pastor and, of course, the rest of the brethren, tune in that direction. So Japa is a continuation of slavery. It tells you that you have nothing here. So move over to the other side. Hundreds of years ago, they came over here to carry Africans and willingly. It's still a continuation. And when you get there, where do you end up? The studies is there. The statistics is there. The kind of jobs Africans do in America and Europe. And of course, you keep hoping that it might be better. You don't see that dream come to true. The tax system in